Great. So welcome. My name is Ross Yelsey. I'm an Associate Director of Admission and Marketing here at Columbia Journalism School. I'm also an alum of the school, so I have a good amount of knowledge of what it's like to be a student at Columbia, but I'm really happy today to have this particular session. I know this is one that we get a lot of demand for about the student experience here, because as much as I know all of you, when you read our website or go to our other webinars, you hear about our programs, you hear about all the different opportunities here, hear from some of our faculty, but you don't always get the sense of what it's like to actually be a student in the school. So I'm really happy to have three current students here to talk more about what it's like day to day in our MS and MA programs and getting a sense on what the semester has been like so far. The thing is, they've only been here for about a month and a half, so not super long. We're about less than halfway through our fall semester. But as you'll learn, I think through our conversation at the journalism school, you will be doing a ton of things, from day one. So you're going to be accomplishing a lot, experiencing a lot, even by this time in the academic year. So there'll be a lot to talk about, which I'm really happy to say. But I'd like to welcome our guests, two of our current Master of Science students, Christopher and Vahini, and from our Master of Arts program, Carolina, who will be talking about that program. And I thought to start, and we'll go in, I think, alphabetical order by first name, so starting with Carolina, talking about kind of where you were a year ago. I bet a lot of you might be like our participants who are watching this webinar right now. You were thinking about applying here. Can you tell us a bit about what you were doing at that point and what made sense about going to grad school for you last cycle?
Yeah, so I was living in the UK, in London. I lived there for 7 years, though I'm originally from Brazil. But I was working in a magazine there as an associate editor, and what I was doing was basically commissioning features, working with writers on culture stories, and also writing stories myself. And the magazine was called Monocle. I don't know if I said that, but so I really enjoyed doing that. And I'd had some experience in journalism, but I felt like I really wanted to push myself a lot harder. And I'd never studied journalism formally. I came from a sociology background and I just kind of went into magazines. But I always wanted to, and so it felt like the right time to really try and take my career to the next step. And yeah, it's delivered. I'm really enjoying my time here so far.
Great. Christopher.
Yeah, so I before coming here had been working in documentaries. I've been doing that for about 7 years. I went to undergrad for film, and was really fortunate enough to get into documentaries. I really enjoyed the work, and a lot of the films I worked on, you're kind of doing a lot of research on reporting that's already been done by journalists on the ground. You're relying on them very heavily. And it just was kind of my first taste of nonfiction storytelling. And then eventually, when I think, I felt like, okay, I really, really enjoy certain aspects of documentaries, but I really want to start kind of telling my own stories and doing my own research and really creating stories the way, I think I see them. A little light bulb went off in my head, and I said, I think I'd really like to get into really more formal journalism. I also was like, I think I want to write rather than work in film. And so, yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of be a little more rigorous in thinking critically about what journalism is, how to tell stories properly, and to, just kind of be held to a higher standard than I think you might see in certain spaces like documentary, which are exploding right now. And yeah, a lot of people enter that don't have formal journalism experience, which is fine if, that's what you want to do. But I just made the conscious decision that I wanted to dig a little deeper into really what journalism is and how I could fit into the world.
Great. And Vahini, what's your story?
Yeah, so for the past 2 years or the 2 years before J School, I was working at a podcast studio that made audio documentaries. And it was a really small team. It was a startup, but it was made up of a lot of seasoned and experienced journalists. And because it was a young company, they didn't really always have the time to teach me everything. My background also wasn't in journalism. I studied political science. And so I was really excited about the work that I could do and was able to do or have a front row seat to. And I wanted to be the one that actually got to contribute reporting and production. And so I applied to the J School last year for more formal training and to also be among peers and people that were also new to journalism in the way that I was. And so, yeah, it's been really, really awesome.
Great, thanks. So a question we get a lot is kind of what is a day in the life like here? And I think attached to that question is like a sense that I think from a lot of people who've gone through an undergrad program, especially in the US and places similar in terms of their education, you might be used to kind of an academic life where there's midterms, a final paper, a final test. How is life at the journalism school in terms of how the academics work here different from what you might have been used to in kind of a more traditional academic program? Can you speak to a bit to that? Maybe we'll start with Carolina again for that one.
Yeah, so I think what really stands out to me about the J School in particular is this idea of community and, you walk around the building and you see your professors say hello, and it really feels like, it really feels like you're among peers. And that's something that's been different. I mean, I did my undergrad in the UK, and so that's, kind of different to begin with, but that's something that I don't think I necessarily felt there as strongly as I do here. And there are so many events all the time. There are so during lunch, after class in the evening, and it really feels like you're a part of something, and that's something that I've really enjoyed and felt since I've been here.
Great. And Christopher.
Yeah, I think you both kind of touched on that, but that being here, it's also like it's weird to call people that you're in class with classmates. I think I consider them more like colleagues, and because I think that a lot of people are coming from professional backgrounds, and even if they're coming from undergrad, all these professors are either still they're currently journalists or they have a really expansive experience working in journalism. And so you get treated like you're in a professional setting, which I think is refreshing, and it's a really great way to learn. So when you're kind of talking to your peers, your colleagues, it at least, for myself, having worked professionally for many years before coming here, it was I think there was a little bit of a worry of like, oh, have I been away from school for too long? And, is this the right fit for me? And then to be here, and it really does feel like the goal here is to work in a professional setting where you feel like you're getting the real experience that you'll then be stepping into, hopefully 7 months from now when I have a job and really going out there as a reporter.
Great. And Vahini.
Yeah, absolutely. I think collegial is definitely the word. Also, something that's been really awesome in my classes, I'm always having guest speakers, or my professors are always bringing in guest speakers. So, you know, our classes are kind of run like editorial meetings. It's not necessarily lectures. It's a lot of discussing what stories we're working on, what challenges we're facing, how we can work through them. And then also having people that are in the field and have a lot of experience in a variety of different formats and mediums and beats come and talk to us and, speak to us really candidly and off the record about their experiences. And, it's been really awesome. Everyone asks questions, either specifically to maybe the stories of theirs that we've read or even just professional advice and mentorship. So it's been really cool.
And then a question for our two Master of Science students, Christopher and Vahini, which is about the reporting module. So all Master of Science program students, whether you're in the broader MS or in the documentary MS or the investigative or in the MS in data journalism or the part-time program, will begin your experience here going out into New York for many weeks at the start of the semester and learning how to do reporting by actually doing it in different communities here. And I thought I'd get a sense, you're in the middle of this particular experience right now. Could you talk a bit about what it's been like to be kind of out there in the city that you might not know super well yet when you get here? Christopher, do you want to start and tell us a little bit about your experience in reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just been a thrill. Like you're a little nervous coming in here and maybe, I can at least speak for myself. Like, you still have like those doubts of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going into the right industry or school or whatever? And then, you just get started and you're out there reporting like right away. And, for me, it was like, oh, this is I love this. This is great. And it's yeah, like I'm reporting in the South Bronx. And I again, I have this documentary background, so I've watched, directors interview people, and I've been with crews all around New York and all around the country shooting. It's a whole different thing to be by yourself and to just you got to like build up that courage to go talk to some people in the neighborhood and ask like what's going on, and then it's absolutely terrifying and it's thrilling, and then you just kind of get through it. In I think the best way possible. And but that your professors are there to support you. And they've all been through it, and the guest speakers you have all been through it, and the colleagues in your classroom are going through it. And so it's just sort of like yeah, it's been really great to just kind of go right into the reporting rather than just kind of like talking about it. It's like, okay, let's get ahead and do it.
How's it been for you, Vahini?
Yeah, it's been everything that Chris has said. It's been immersive and really challenging and cool. A lot of the reporting classes will assign different beats, either by class or by individuals, and those can be geographic beats, like parts of New York City, or they can be topical. I know someone's, education or healthcare, sanitation, etc. And so it's a really awesome opportunity to learn how to research and navigate something that you might have no experience with. I'm from New Jersey, so the city didn't feel super exotic to me, but actually learning the way that it's structured bureaucratically was really interesting and exciting, but also really difficult and challenging. But we have really amazing resources and ways to kind of dig in and get deeper. And also just physically navigating and talking to people has been so cool and invigorating and fun. A lot of it is just really, really, really fun. So, yeah.
Great. And Carolina, you're in a different program, Master of Arts, which is for more experienced journalists who want to dive deeper into one of four subject areas: arts and culture, business and economics, politics, or science. And you're in the arts and culture program, which I'm also an alum of. And I thought I'd get a sense from you about what it's been like so far being in that program, especially in the arts and culture core seminar, where you have journalists who are experts in that field really train you to go deeper and do more ambitious work in reporting. What's it been like? I have a sneak preview before this session started. I got a little sense of the trip you took today. So maybe you can talk about that and other things you've been learning already in the program.
Yeah, so I've been loving it because it's kind of exactly what I wanted, really, because I missed academia and I missed being in that environment and I missed reading theory, and but I'm also a journalist, so I didn't want to let go of that part of myself and just do a master's. I was just straight academia. And so I'm really enjoying how in the arts and culture seminar, taught by Elisa Solomon, who is amazing, um, we get to do a mix of both. So we're reading, French philosophy, we're reading Roland Barthes, or we're reading, American theorists like bell hooks. But at the same time, we're also reading New Yorker profiles and, trying to think about what's working here and talking about things from a sort of more craft perspective. And yeah, I know we took a trip today to the Teachers College to find out, think about the process of making art and what kind of areas of your brain and of yourself that activates. And so we did prints, which was really interesting and, something different from sitting around and talking around a table, but, and yeah, we've been doing a lot of like a big mix of things. Last week, we also went to see an experimental sort of dance performance at Crossing the Line, which is a festival that the Alliance Francaise does here in New York, and that was also amazing. And I got to cover that, and I wrote a review about it, and it's going to be published tomorrow. And so I just feel like it's great because I feel like I'm learning so much, and I'm also doing so much, and it's kind of that mix. That's what I was looking for, really.
That's great. And Carolina, that leads me to my next question for each of the people here is to talk about a story that you've worked on so far at the school. It doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite one, but one that maybe you feel has been memorable or challenging. It could be the one that you're about to publish, Carolina, but would each of you maybe want to tell us about one example of something you've been developing or have finished now at school? Maybe we'll start with Carolina, if you want to talk more about that story.
I'll go first. Yeah. So that story, we went to go see a performance at Crossing the Line, and it was by a French choreographer called Jerome Bell. And so the performance we saw was also called Jerome Bell. And I wrote a review about it, which was something, yeah, I really one thing that I came here to do was also get better at writing criticism. And working with my professor on that story, and getting to see her feedback, sending it back, really like she really went in there and pushed me, and that's been a great experience. And yeah, the performance itself is really interesting, and it was great trying to connect some of the concepts that we were learning about in class, and in thinking about that performance too. And I could already feel myself sort of, oh, I'm actually learning because I could pull from some of these texts that we just read in class to describe this. And so, yeah, that was great.
Christopher, what have you been reporting on in the Bronx so far?
Yeah, so my first two articles I've written, I focused on education and primarily charter schools in the South Bronx. This was just kind of came about because, our professors first week said, okay, go to your district and go walk around, get to know your district. And, the first thing I noticed was, wow, there's a lot of charter schools here. And then my next thought was, I don't really know a lot about charter schools, but I know that they're somewhat maligned, they're a little controversial. And let me just dig a little bit deeper on this. And then so I started to look into the data and started to look at the fact that my district did have a disproportionate amount of charter schools. So I thought, okay, there's something there. And then, I just started to. So my last article, I went and visited with. I got in touch with a principal at a charter school, and I went and spoke with him and a few other staff there. And surprisingly, they are under enrolled, and they have a tough time getting students to come to their school, even though in that district, I mean, people are flocking to charter schools versus the public schools. So that was clearly there's a story there. There's something that's kind of going against the flow of what's happening there, and so that's been really exciting. And I think something that's really cool as well is when you're in class and you're focusing on your story, and I'm doing all this. And by the way, Carolina, I was also at Teachers College. I'm at Teachers College, interviewing experts on education in New York City. That's a great part about Columbia as well, is the two of the three people I interviewed at this charter school got their degrees at Teachers College. So then you go, okay, I'm at Columbia Journalism. That's a nice little, way to start a conversation and gain a little bit of trust. But I just find it very fun when you go to class and people kind of pitch their stories and talk about what they're doing. And it's very cool to see how everyone's going to their neighborhoods and they're noticing something different than what you're noticing. And there just is an endless number of stories that can be told. And in some ways, you see common threads between all of them, and you can start to paint a bigger picture of maybe New York City on a wider scale. But then, like, okay, like there's differences even with districts that are right next to each other in the demographic makeup and the issues that they're dealing with. So it's not just like what you're reporting on. It's keeping your ears open to what other people are reporting on, and how they're seeing things maybe a little bit differently than you, and they're maybe seeing a different story. So that's been a lot of fun.
Great. And Vahini, what have you been working on so far?
Yeah, my last story, I actually got to attend the first annual National Urban Rat Summit hosted by New York City. I was doing a story on rat mitigation throughout New York City and specifically Midtown. So getting to attend and kind of seeing, the actual conference itself, and then finding sources and all of these leading experts to talk to. New York City has this initiative called the Rat Pack, where they're trying to enlist, community members to take rat mitigation in their own hands. And so I got to attend some of that training and, kind of get all into the weeds on how New York City is addressing its rat issues. And that's, of course, an ongoing story and a developing story. There's always something going on. And New York City is such a unique space. We have, I think, one of the nation's first rat SARS. It's an individual whose full-time job is to fight the New York City rats. So it's been really fun getting to dive deep into that section of government here in the city.
Yes, you might see a rat or two around New York. I feel like, once you're here for a week or so, you'll probably see one somewhere. But I'm glad people are delving into some of the deeper issues related to the rats that make up our city. And of course, there's so many issues. You were talking about education earlier, Christopher, and of course, arts and culture from Carolina and Vahini about, rats. But there's so many things here. That's the kind of thing about New York is like any issue you're interested in, whether it's climate change or education, arts, sports, anything. You can definitely find amazing, angles, stories, and it's going to be a challenge sometimes to find them, I bet, as you navigate the city, especially if you're unfamiliar with this city. But with the faculty that teach you in reporting or other classes, you're definitely going to get up to speed really fast, which is kind of a guarantee if you come here. So a question now about the rest of the fall semester for our two Master of Science students, Christopher and Vahini. You're going to end reporting in a few weeks, that part of the fall. The fall is not fully a reporting class all the way through. Reporting will end, and then for the second half of this semester, you're going to have an image and sound class and a written word class where you'll have a lot of choices in terms of, particular subjects or areas you wanted to focus on. I thought I'd ask you both kind of what you've selected and why. I know this isn't something you've experienced yet, but getting a sense on what your kind of thought process was about how to get what you wanted out of this curriculum for the rest of this particular semester. Christopher, do you want to tell us what classes you've selected for the remainder of the fall?
Yeah, sure. So I'll be in audio class with Sally Herships. I picked that because, well, I knew I didn't want to do video because I already have a pretty good grasp on how to put together a story visually. And, I just kind of thought as much as I want to focus on writing and written journalism while I'm here. I did want to just, my goal, I think this year is also to test the waters on a few different things and see what I'm good at, see what I enjoy, see what my, further understand what might have strengths in. So I think audio is cool, and obviously podcasts are doing really well. There's a lot of really great audio reporting going on, and a lot of news organizations are expanding their podcast network. So if I happen to be good at it, and I think it's something I want to pursue, this class will give me that opportunity to kind of take a look at that. And then for my written word, I'm doing feature storytelling, and that, I had a suspicion about that. I mean, I think it was two things. One was that I just read a lot of feature stories. I enjoy feature stories. And the other one being that when I worked in documentaries, I did both, worked on both series and feature length films, and I always liked feature length the best. And I think that there's a overlap in the types of storytelling and the skills required to tell a feature documentary and tell a feature written story. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
Sounds great. And Vahini, you have some different choices. What did you select?
Yeah, so it looks like Chris and I will be in Audio One together with Sally Hership, so I'm really excited about that choice. I do have a background in audio, but I definitely wanted to strengthen all of my technical skills as well as kind of break down, the shows and podcasts that I really love and learning how to properly engineer them from the back end. So that's why I chose that. And Sally Herships is really, really awesome. She founded Radio Boot Camp, which is a program that I've admired from afar for a really long time. So it's been really cool to talk to her and learn more about audio from her and so directly. And then for my written word class, I chose The Art of the Profile of Paula Spann, who is a really brilliant columnist. I love everything that's human centered, and I love reading profiles. That's some of my favorite, I guess, things to read and consume throughout my week. And so similarly, I just wanted to learn, the craft of, sharing a person and capturing a person through writing and on the page. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, lots to look forward to for the rest of the term. And Carolina, we have a different type of curriculum in the Master of Arts. So you have the core seminar we've already talked about, arts and culture, and a couple other classes with the MA cohort here at the journalism school. But a great feature about the Master of Arts program is that students are able to take courses outside of the journalism school in other departments. So in the fall, you're able to take one class outside of the journalism school, and in the spring, potentially two classes outside of the journalism school. What's the class you've selected to take outside of the school for the fall? How did you pick that, and how's that been so far?
Yeah, so I'm taking a class in the film department. It's called Conspiracy in US Films. And we sort of think about conspiracies critically and look at them in relation to films and art. And I think it's really interesting. I've always wanted to take a film class. I've always wanted to sort of go deeper in my thinking about films. And I don't do a lot of writing about film. I forgot to say, but I also do freelance writing, and I'm mainly a music journalist in my freelance writing. I write for places like the New York Times and the Guardian, and so I wanted to think about how I could things I could do to make me feel more confident writing about other art forms like film, and so this is sort of the perfect opportunity for it, and also a great mix of social theory and critical theory and also art, which is something that I've always been really interested in.
Great. And since I mentioned this at the kind of outside of the question about the classes you take, in addition to the seminar and that, which are the MA Essentials class and the Evidence and Inference class, those bring together the whole MA cohort, regardless of what subject they're actually concentrating in. What
Mhm.
has that been like so far to kind of come together as a whole kind of MA class in those?
Yeah, I think it's great that I love the seminar and I love that we have our own little pool of 9 people. But it's also great to be able to be in other classes with the people from politics and the people from business and science because these are also peers. This is something that we keep coming back to, all of us. But and it's great hearing about their experiences. And it's, these are people who have also come from all over the world, Denmark, Nigeria, everywhere really. And it's so interesting to hear about what journalism is like there and how it compares to, say, the UK or the US or other places. People have, yeah, Germany, I'm trying to remember, Hungary, Italy, the
Oh,
people are from everywhere. And yeah, it's been great sort of having those conversations with them and sort of comparing our experiences and learning from each other. And being in the classes has been really, really great also. Yeah.
great. And at the school, I know there's a lot of interesting opportunities that are exclusively for our students and graduates. And I know one of them is the DuPont Fellows, which is a cool opportunity for students to apply for. And Vahini has been selected as one of those. Vahini, can you talk a bit about that, what that is, the DuPont Fellowship, and what you'll be doing, what you already have been doing as a DuPont Fellow?
Yeah, absolutely. So the DuPont Columbia Awards recognize excellence in audio and broadcast journalism. And so 2 fellows get to work with the professional prizes team throughout the year and help them administratively prepare for all the awards ceremonies that happen, all the professional prizes that kind of occur throughout the year, as well as help produce the podcast that the department has called On Assignment. And so right now I've been helping with a lot of event prep, as well as audio production and engineering for the podcast. Um, it's a commitment throughout the week, as well as other special events and things. The professional prizes team have been really, really awesome, and they're excellent teachers. And it's definitely a really awesome opportunity to have. I'm learning a lot. It's also been really cool to, on the back end, see what you know constitutes exceptional journalism and journalism that's been appreciated by a jury of peers and amazing journalists from around the world.
Yeah, that's a great point. As Bahini said, we have a lot of the great prizes in journalism that are administered here. On top of the DuPonts, we have the Pulitzers, the Cabot Prizes, which I think we're having next week, and the Chancellor Award, so many different things. So it's a place where, yeah, people will be coming through here from all over the world constantly. So that's really exciting. I thought I'd ask each of you also about what it's like to be here. I know we talked a little bit before about how this differs from maybe a more, traditional academic master's program or from an undergrad program with its more like fixed schedule of tests and papers and things like that. But what's it like going to a school that like ours that has a pass-fail grading system where we're not really thinking too much about specific grades like A, B, C, or other types of equivalents to those here? How does that change the way maybe you are able to approach learning at Columbia Journalism School? Carolina, maybe we'll start with you for that.
For sure. I think yeah, it really does change things. And even thinking about that film class, maybe I would have been, I would have found it a bit more daunting and thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't take this if I was worried about what kind of grade I would get there or, how it would affect my GPA. But I think having the freedom to sort of not think about that helps you, explore other things that you might not be so confident in doing. And also it helps you sort of feel more comfortable, trying new things in class and if and not playing it safe necessarily because at the end of the day I'm here to learn, so I'm happy I can do that and not if I'm writing an assignment or if I'm writing a piece of criticism or writing a profile, I might be inclined, if we didn't have the pass fail system, I might have been inclined to, I'll kind of stick to what I know. And because I know that's worked out with so and so, this editor, or that editor. But because I know that it won't really, I'm here to learn, and that's what matters at the end of the day, then I can sort of try new things and see if it works. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Mhm. Yeah, Christopher, do you have any thoughts on that too?
Yeah, I love the way Carolina put it. It does give you that opportunity to take risks in your work and know that, the professors you're working with, their goal is to just make your work the best that you can make it. And, that's what the professional world is like too. It's pass or fail, you get asked to complete a task and nobody's going to come back to you and say, you got like a B- on this task that I asked you to do. It's you either did it or you didn't do it. But also, if you want to get anywhere, you got to set your own standards for yourself. So I think that's what's really liberating about it. We had a journalist come speak to our reporting class 2 days ago who was a J school student, graduated 2 years ago. We were asking her questions about the professional world and how she's kind of getting ahead. And, she said something that is absolutely true at school. And I think because of the pass fail thing is she said, it's you get out of it what you put into it. And so to hear that, that applies in the professional world. And so when you're at Columbia Journalism School, it applies here. And I don't know if that would be entirely true if people were constantly tracking, thinking like, okay, I have to get this grade, or I only have this much time to do this. And it's nice when there's students in my class that are maybe coming from undergrad and they kind of are in that mindset, and to kind of like watch them kind of let go of that. And again, it's liberating and allows you to take risks.
Yeah, Lakini, do you have anything to add about that?
I think Chris and Carolina summed it up really perfectly. But I think, yeah, ultimately it just pushes you to do your best work. And, I think it also allows you to be really honest with yourself and your professors as your editors about, what is challenging. And, I just think it supports a really good and honest, collaborative environment among, the class and the professors.
Great, thank you. And so this building behind me in this image is Pulitzer Hall, which is where I think several of us are. I think one is in a kitchen elsewhere, but the rest of us are in this building. And it's all 8 stories of this building are the journalism school offices, the classrooms, the different learning spaces, library, studios, all of that's all here. So the community all is based in this one building. I thought I'd ask each of you, what's it like to be a member of this community so far? How would you describe this community to people maybe who have not had the chance to experience it or kind of be in Pulitzer Hall yet? Carolina, do you want to start?
For sure. I mean, it's very tight knit. It's more tight knit than I came into it thinking it would be because I'd heard about it, but yeah, I think it sort of exceeded my expectations. It does feel like you could talk to anyone in the building and, could sort of strike up a conversation with anyone. And that would be a normal thing to do. And that applies to people, in the MS program, it applies to, people in the PhD, it applies to the professors. It feels very collegial and it feels very friendly. And yeah, it does feel like not necessarily an academic environment in the strictest sense of the word. I think someone else was saying this, but perhaps more like a workplace or somewhere where things are a bit more where that aspect of community is maybe more salient. But yeah, I think that would be the thing that I kind of have thought about the most since I've been here.
Great. And Christopher, before the session, I know you were working in one of our communal workspaces, the Brown Institute, where a lot of students are set up doing their own work or maybe collaborating on some different projects. Maybe you can talk a bit about what the community has been like for you so far.
Yeah, well, you said the operative word, which is collaborative, and that is really how it feels. There's no fear of like people are not trying to step over each other, and there's not, like the schmoozing for schmoozing's sake. There's really like, it's very collaborative, because I think of the diverse student body, the backgrounds that people are coming from, especially when you're working in journalism, where you could be reporting or working on any number of topics. It's really important to get to know the people you're at school with, because I mean, so frequently it's like, okay, all of a sudden I'm like following something that has to do with health and medicine. Well, okay, I know one of my colleagues is like works at a hospital, and they might be able to connect me to somebody, or I might have anxieties about, going to a certain place or reporting on something, and somebody has already kind of done work like that. So then they can kind of help me out. And likewise, if I see people that are struggling with a certain, aspect of reporting that maybe I have some experience on, I want to help them out. And it really does feel that way of like, nobody's, everyone's kind of competing with themselves, which I think is, again, I really do feel like it's a simulation of what is going to happen once we go beyond the school, and it's just only going to help us out to be in this environment now.
Great. And Vahini, before the session too, I think I saw you and some students out in front of the building here in front of Pulitzer Hall, kind of out on a sunny day, enjoying just the air outside campus. Can you talk a bit about your experience with the community?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so fun and absolutely it's super collaborative and supportive. One of my favorite things is that this is actually one of the most global experiences I've gotten to have. And so I've made so many friends from so many different parts of the world. And hearing about, their experiences, professional, but also just personal life experiences and what's going on and what, brings them here. New York City is already a very global city, but it's been really cool to meet people my age, and from very different backgrounds. It's been a really surreal and fun, really, really fun experience.
Great. And I know all of you have only been here for like a month and a half so far, but I thought I'd ask kind of a question about advice for people who may be here in a year or so from now, kind of diving into this experience. What would you kind of say in terms of advice for making the most out of the opportunities here, ways to kind of prepare, or maybe ways to just approach in terms of your mindset, all the kind of classes, all the types of other types of learning and professional development you can do at the journalism school? Carolina, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so thinking specifically about the MA, I think maybe a good way to prepare is sort of to, read around the topics that you're interested in, but also just think about maybe classes that you would want to take outside the department, and start thinking about what you want to get out of those classes and what you want to get out of your time here. What it is that you want to work on specifically. Is it long form reporting? Is it criticism? Is it that you want to get better? You want to be a better investigative reporter? Start to think about those things, because then when you're here, you can sort of, go to your professors and say, this is what I want to do. And I think that everyone does appreciate that. And I would say if you're thinking about the MA, not necessarily come with a thesis idea, because that's not required at all, but maybe start thinking of different projects that you'd like to maybe explore more, or even sort of broader ideas or places that you're interested in, so that you can come here and start, thinking more about that, and then actually planning.
Hmm. Great advice. Christopher, how about you?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm gonna double up on what Carolina said, but I think reading like a lot is something that I did as I was kind of going through the application process, and then like the summer before I started here, just reading a lot. Or I mean, I think if you kind of have an idea of sort of what type of journalism you want to do, if you want to focus on audio, then listen to a lot of podcasts. But I think what's great about before you get to the J school is like just pick what you want to read. Pick what you want to read and start to notice like what are the things that really grab my attention, what are the things that don't. And it doesn't necessarily have to be um, journalism, because in journalism, like everything is relevant. So once you started school, there's a lot less leisure writing. I find, I mean, reading, I find times to do that, but then you'll really start to get assigned readings, which are great because it puts you in places in journalism that you wouldn't normally maybe go to, and it really expands your idea of what journalism is. But to have that time beforehand to just allow yourself to just read what isn't interesting to you will help you kind of gauge, okay, these are maybe the things that I want to going into school emulate, or I can kind of come to the table and with like a basic knowledge of whatever it might be that you're reading about. And that's something that in our reporting class, like we were taught right away, was like be immersive in reading and the news and everything that's going on. It's going to apply before you get to journalism school. It's going to apply when you're at journalism school, and it's going to apply after you leave journalism school. So the earlier you do that, the better off you're going to be.
Great advice. And Vahini, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, we did get a really awesome reading list over the summer, and it was really like it was really exciting to go through it and consider different forms of journalism that I hadn't really gotten into before. A lot, like I said, a lot of my news consumption was and journalistic consumption was through audio. So a lot of really cool long form research and well reported books and documentaries. I would also say, in whatever way that you can or may need to allow yourself to just be here. It's a really short year and it's a really fast year. And there is no time or mental space to kind of juggle anything else. And it's a good thing too. I think this place really allows you to focus on journalism and your goals here. And so whether that's professional or life planning, I think you know making it easier for yourself and not having to consider things I guess outside while you are here.
That's great advice. A lot of times at this time of year, people who are thinking of applying ask about, doing internships on top of their studies if they're in the full-time program, or having other obligations, or playing, varsity sports or something like that. And yeah, there's really not that time, which is, again, the exciting part, but you're doing probably multiple journalism jobs at once when you're in the program here. So that's a good way to think about it. Great. And now, kind of a final question in terms of the ones I've prepared, which is about, things applicants should think about. For the people who are watching this, a lot of them are like you may have been last cycle, thinking of applying or starting to think about how to prepare your application. And of course, it's no surprise, all three of you were admitted to the school and have gotten in and have joined us. So do you have any advice for people in terms of what they might think about as they're preparing an application, what to focus on, what not to worry about, what to focus on when it comes to the application process? Carolina, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, this is kind of maybe a no-brainer. I don't know if it's helpful, but start as early and as soon as you can, writing those essays, because that means that you won't be stressed right before the deadline and think, oh no, is this good? Is this not good? Give yourself the time to really think through again what you're interested in, and think through what parts of your story that you want to convey to the people on the admissions team. And yeah, I would say get started on that as soon as possible. And then the sort of admin-y things that you have to do, also sort of, the sooner you do that, the better, because then you'll just get it out of the way and you can focus on the essays. So I think those are the two things that I would say.
Christopher, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think just being honest with yourself and being honest during your application process. I think like if you don't quite know what you want to do in journalism, but you have certain things that interest you, like I think it will suit you best to be honest when you're writing your essays, to really, because it's I think if you try and like present yourself as like, oh, I this is exactly what I want to do, even though maybe it's not. It's just it's going to come across in the application, and I think that's also why when you're thinking about recommendations, like recommendations are such a great thing because a lot of times, you'll have people you've worked with or people who have taught you that can probably also speak to an aspect of yourself that maybe you're not aware of or you don't really see as as a strength of yours. But I think that so I think when picking, your recommendations too, it's like don't just pick somebody that you think is going to say something nice about you. Like pick somebody that knows you on maybe a deeper level that can say, I had one person who gave me a recommendation that I didn't read what the recommendation that they wrote was, but like in my conversation, he mentioned something that was like, oh, you're really, I've seen you're really good with people, and I can see how that's going to translate well to journalism. So I assume, he kind of wrote on that, and that was like not something that maybe I would have sort of like put forth as one of my strengths. So I really think like the goal is to paint a really honest portrait of yourself as best you can. And I think that that probably will serve you best in your application.
Great advice. And Vahini, anything you would also add for prospective applicants?
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was applying, I was really nervous about what I perceived to be a lack of experience journalistically, just because, that's not what I studied in undergrad, and I didn't necessarily have like a massive portfolio to share. But everyone here has so many different levels of experience, and everyone here is learning and growing a lot. So I think being really honest about what you do have to offer, and who you are and what you are interested in and what you are excited about. um, I think there was a part of my essay where I talked about how much I loved reading Humans of New York on Instagram, and so kind of reflecting on what kind of journalism that you love and what kind of stories are important to you and the ones that you want to share, in whatever forms that they might be. I think that, you'll be really surprised and excited to see, all the different and amazing ways there are to tell nonfiction stories here. And so, yeah, I think that. And then also, I will say it would be really helpful to really lock in on your news consumption and knowing what's going on, and the kinds of stories you might want to tell across, different subject areas. I know that the elections are a really big point of conversation right now, but there's a lot of stuff happening locally, environmentally, in the healthcare system, and so I think definitely tune into that.
Great advice from all of you. Thank you so much. And now we have I'd say about 10 minutes for some questions from the rest of you who've been watching and learning a lot, I hope, from this conversation. Obviously, our students need to get back to reporting and storytelling, so we're going to definitely have to close it at the end of the hour. But for now, I'm going to put this link also in the chat for any questions about admissions and financial aid that's better suited for my team that can answer. Sign up for a session. We'll talk more about those nitty-gritty things in a session like that. But if you have questions for this particular group about the student experience, please put them in the chat, but address them to me, the host, Ross, and I'll be able to probably ask a few of them before we close out this talk. So please type away if you like. Let's see. Oh, I see. This is a good question for any of you to maybe hit upon, which is about career development here. That's something we didn't touch upon, but obviously it's early in the year. But what's it been like so far thinking about your career path, and what kind of resources have you been able to already take advantage of from our career team in the Office of Career Development? Anybody want to take that one? Carolina.
So I've already had a careers meeting with Gina on the team, who's amazing, and she sort of went through my CV with me and said that this is what you need to change, this is what you're doing well, and that's been really helpful because I've actually never had someone do that with me before. So that was great, and it's amazing really to have sort of access to that resource, and I will be using it more throughout the year because it is early, but yeah, I'm already thinking about next year and the kinds of opportunities that I could access then.
Mhm. Yeah. Anybody else worked with the career team yet?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, Bahini, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Um, But no, in my consultation, similarly, just going line by line and addressing what stood out. My counselor kind of suggested a lot of things that I didn't necessarily have on my radar or was aware of, and so that was really awesome. And I will also say we have a weekly Journalism Now series. And so as a cohort, we have film screenings with directors of documentaries or people that have started their own media companies come and talk to us and present to us. So, being in really, I guess, intimate space with these people and getting to ask them and talk to them and, network too has been really, really great. And that's in addition to, we have a million different series during our lunch noon blocks, View from the Trenches and Meet the Media, where we're constantly talking to and learning from, career journalists.
And Christopher, did you have something you want to say too?
Yeah, kind of just to expand on what Vahini was talking about. Also, like in my reporting class, and well, actually, several of my classes, we have these guest speakers that come in, and that's a really good opportunity. We have the Journalism Now, which is like, you'll get like the whole MS program together in a room, but when you're in your reporting class, I have 13 people in my reporting class, and so yeah, we asked the reporters about the work that they've done and how they reported on these stories, but then like, they're happy to answer questions of like, okay, what are the steps to how did you get there? And what about, self-doubt or, anxieties of, going into this industry? And they will be incredibly candid. And then, like I followed up with several of the people that have been guest speakers, and like I'm gonna get coffee with a reporter next week, and then I'm gonna get that one-on-one time for somebody who's currently doing it. And whether or not that lands an opportunity, like a career opportunity, it's more like an opportunity to really hear from somebody who's in it right now, who can really tell me what the landscape is like and what I should be doing, what I can be doing to improve my chances of getting a job.
Mhm. Thank you. And another interesting question here. One thing about the Master of Science program is that it's very, as we discussed, kind of flexible, so people can pursue a lot of different avenues of study within it in terms of audio, which I know both Vahini and Christopher are going to be taking later this semester. You could also do video, you could do photo, you could do data. You can also explore a wide range of things in the spring semester with a lot of seminar and production class options. Question, I think, for Christopher and Vahini, do you have a sense already of what you want to do for the rest of the time at Columbia? Are you still pretty open to different potential opportunities? What's your approach to maybe the curriculum here in terms of its open-endedness, in terms of what you're able to kind of focus upon as a student?
That's a good question. I'm certainly pretty open, and that's something like we just had, there was actually a career meeting, an hour ago. The Financial Times was here talking to students, and maybe somewhat tangentially related is like that was something that you're hearing from them is they're like, if you want to get a job in journalism, be open-minded about the avenues that you're going to take, because you might say, they report on business, and you might say like, I don't want to report on business. Well, that's what all four people on that panel all said to themselves. We don't want to report on business, and they found their way there, and they're happily employed, and they love what they report on. And you only get there by being open-minded. So that's what and that's what's so great about getting that reporting class right off the bat is like, finding out these things that you don't really understand, that, oh, I need to maybe be better at this. Data is one that's like come up a lot for me, is like, okay, it's inevitable that these stories I'm telling, I'm going to have to deal with data. And I notice when I'm doing it on my own, I'm like struggling and I don't quite know it. And fortunately, there's a lot of opportunities to, there's like data workshops, and there's a lot of, the professors around here that maybe I won't take their class, but I ran into Mark Hansen the other day. He gave a lecture on AI, and I was like, that was really great. He said, well, why don't you just come audit my class? I'm not taking his class, but he's like, why don't you just stop by? It's, he gave me the date and times, and I was like, okay, great. Yeah, I didn't think I would need to dig into this, but I really want to, because it's going to get me to the end of reporting the story that I really want to report.
Yeah, that's great. And Vahini, how have you been kind of thinking about what you want to accomplish in the rest of the time here?
Yeah, coming in, I told myself that my goals were to become a really strong writer and reporter, and to also keep strengthening my audio skills. So I've been definitely paying attention to those things while also remaining super, super open. I feel like every time, we have a Journalism Now series or a Noon series, I have like more questions and I'm more excited to learn something new. And, luckily, we have, like, Chris was mentioning, so many workshops across so many different mediums and topics in journalism that you can just stop by and, for an hour or two during lunch and, learn so much from people that are really experienced and really knowledgeable about these things. And also, what's really cool is that Dean Miller is super receptive. If there's ever anything you want to learn, you just send him an email and say, hey, I think this would be a really cool noon block. And he makes it happen almost immediately. So there's so many ways to learn and, attend, so many workshops and things here.
Great. And I guess in the MA, it's a little different, but for Carolina, I know within the arts and culture world, are you kind of already knowing what you want to focus upon for the rest of your time? Are you also kind of open to exploring some different things? What's your approach been? And how are you thinking about maybe those spring elective classes you might be able to take too?
So I think we were talking about this actually, but so I do a lot of music reporting and writing, and so I think next year I really want to take a class that sort of builds on that, maybe something on, ethnography of sound or something music related. And I've also been thinking about my thesis a lot. If you're on the MA program, you get to report a really sort of narrative long form story, and I'm really excited about that. And I've been, starting to think about my topic and how I'm going to do it, and my sort of reporting plan and how I'm going to finance everything. And so that's exciting, and I think that's the main thing that's going to really occupy a lot of my mental brain space next year.
Great. Well, thanks to each of you. This has been a great conversation. I hope this has been really insightful for the people who have attended and who may be watching this later. I think it's been a great way to spotlight really what it's like to be in the middle of this really, fast-paced but really exciting and enriching program. So thank you so much. And for people who had questions I didn't get to, please again come to our Meet with Us page on our website. You can sign up for some sessions, either individual appointments or other webinars we'll be hosting, including one specifically about the different degree programs and more detail about the curriculum which we'll be holding in the next few weeks. So sign up for all of those. We'll be happy to continue the conversation with all of you throughout the fall season. But again, to our current students, thank you again for taking time away from your reporting and all your stories to talk with all these people from around the globe. And hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, wherever you might be, and take care. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.